What's up, you guys? It's Jonathan Carter, the movie critic that watches bad movies so you don't have to, and today we are talking about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the follow-up to 2023's Five Nights at Freddy's that starred Josh Hutcherson and Elizabeth Lael. It is a video game adaptation, Five Nights at Freddy's video games that have a pretty big cult following behind them. This is a direct sequel to that movie with a lot of the main cast returning for this one. If you have seen this movie, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments. What did you think about it compared to the first one? Did you like it more? Did you like it less? Please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on TikTok, Instagram for shorter versions of reviews, and then Spotify for podcast versions of these reviews if podcasts are more of your thing. And with that being said, without further ado, let's jump into the review.
I think we've come pretty far, considering what we've been through.
So, like I said right at the beginning of this video, Five Nights at Freddy's has a very strong cult following based off of these very popular video games. They're horror video games, and just to be honest, straight up, I'm not a big fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's video games. I'm not really into the lore. I don't know much about these movies. I've never, or the lore itself, I've never really connected with the story, but me being a simple person, someone who really enjoys movies, I can go into a Blumhouse movie, who is the production team behind this film. They also did like Insidious and other big name horror movies. I can go into one of their movies and turn my brain off and just enjoy a horror movie about possessed animatronics coming back to life to haunt people with vendettas or whatever the story is here. But the first Five Nights at Freddy's movie I thought was rather lackluster, formulaic, and kind of weak on all fronts. And unfortunately, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 takes all of those traits and amplifies them like 100 times over. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 picks up about a year after the first movie and finds our main cast kind of dealing with the traumatic events and fallout of the first movie. So we have Josh Hutcherson's character, who is just trying to move forward with his life, take care of his little sister who is still in school. She is dealing with the fact that she made friends with the animatronics from the first movie. They no longer exist because they were able to rescue them and all that stuff, and they're now abandoned at the Five Nights at Freddy's location that is shut down. So she's grappling with not having her friends from the first movie. Josh Hutcherson's character is grappling with just trying to be a normal person and raise his sister. And then we have Elizabeth Lael's character, who is also dealing with the trauma from the first movie. She had another plot where her dad, played so well by Matthew Lillard in that first movie, was the killer behind all this Five Nights at Freddy's stuff and was trapping children and putting them into animatronics and things like that. Really, really dark stuff. She is the daughter of Matthew Lillard's character. So in the first movie, she discovered that, and then in the second movie, she's kind of figuring out, also kind of like Josh Hutcherson's character, who exactly is she? Like, is she a good person? Why is she connected to this killer? What does that mean for her life? The biggest problem with Five Nights at Freddy's 2, so our story here, all of those main characters, all three main characters, grappling with the trauma from the first movie. In order for them to process that trauma and for their story to move forward, they all split up in this film, and all three go on different adventures that kind of link up by the end of the movie. I had the same problem with the first Five Nights at Freddy's. I felt like that first movie had a plot A and a plot B that didn't connect, and it felt like two different scripts that the writers were trying to piece together. This feels exactly the same, except instead of having two different scripts, they're just like, how can we further our main character's trauma and story here? And by doing that, they put them all on their own journey. And so the movie just feels like stop and go the entire time, and it never fully connects into being just a simple Five Nights at Freddy horror animatronic possessed horror movie. Alongside this, simultaneously at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to new characters, some more characters here with their own storyline.
You're thinking of the franchise location. This is the original.
Just so that they can be killed, turned into animatronics, and become the main villains of our sequel here. So there is a lot going on in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 barely any of the stories connect, and then also they just don't have resolution by the end of the movie. It's a very odd cliffhanger, like this is a part 1 of part 2 of like a trilogy or something like that. It is very odd. At the bare minimum, a Blumhouse horror movie should be exactly that. Turn your brain off, just enjoy animatronics hunting people down, jump scares. This delivers nowhere on that. So the first Five Nights at Freddy's has like a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes. This one has a 13%, at least at the time that I last checked. That is less than half of the first movie, and it's true. This movie is somehow significantly worse than the first Five Nights at Freddy's that was already really rough. The odd thing is, I think Josh Hutcherson is a great actor. He's very charismatic. I really enjoyed him in the Hunger Games films. And then Elizabeth Leo, probably best known from Netflix's You series, also is a great performer. And I don't know if it's the way that they were directed, or maybe they're just phoning it in both of these movies. They're so devoid of star power leading energy in this film that it just like, I'm so confused on why exactly this movie exists, because it doesn't deliver on any horror. It doesn't really push any of the like FNAF Five Nights at Freddy lore forward. There's nothing really happening in this movie. It all just feels very surface level, very formulaic. And I know it's weird, like I said, to go into a Five Nights at Freddy's movie expecting like absolute cinema or whatever, but even on the most simplistic, minimalist level, this movie should be able to deliver on scares with animatronics possessed hunting people, and it is somehow not able to do that in any way, shape, or form. Wrapping this review up with the verdict, there's really nothing that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 offers that the original didn't already offer. It's a sequel that essentially has no reason to exist besides maybe introducing the most popular villain character of the FNAF Five Nights at Freddy's lore. The story is so surface level, simplistic, and even at the bare minimum of jump scares or any kind of interesting scares, the movie doesn't really deliver on that. Sure, there are a few jump scares like sprinkled in, but even those are rather cheap, and maybe like only 2 of them kind of significantly land or make an impact in the film. So all that being said, I'm gonna give Five Nights at Freddy's 2 a 3 out of 10, and on a see it, stream it, or skip it. I feel like even if you really enjoy the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, I don't know if you're gonna get any mileage out of this movie. Let me know in the comments if that's true, if you agree with that, if you disagree. What did you think of my review? What did you think of this movie? And be sure to check out my Five Nights at Freddy's review right here way back in 2023 when I was first getting this channel started. Thank you all so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe, you guys. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one.